Imagine you move into this brand new apartment building, right? And the landlord tells you the water is completely free, unlimited.
Oh, the dream.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So naturally, you're taking hour-long showers. You leave the sprinkler running on your balcony plants all day. You don't even think about it. The water just flows.
Right.
But then, literally overnight, without a single warning email, they install this microscopic meter on your faucet. And the very next time you turn it on, just to, wash your hands, a little screen flashes and says, that will be $3,000, please.
It is, it's the sudden, violent shattering of the illusion of infinite abundance.
Exactly.
And it's a terrifying wake-up call because in that split second, you aren't just a casual user anymore. You suddenly become a line item on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
The underlying math of the whole system has just violently caught up with you.
And the crazy thing is that exact scenario isn't hypothetical. That is quite literally what developers woke up to this week. So welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
We are going straight into the heart of Aaron Rose's Tech Reader AI Digest for Wednesday, June 10th, 2026. And, the stakes here are massive for you today.
They really are.
We're doing an autopsy of the hidden economics of the AI boom. And the most incredible part of this digest is that all of the underlying structural flaws are crashing together in a single 48-hour window.
Yeah, we are finally seeing the physical limits of a digital gold rush exposed to daylight.
Right.
The industry has been operating on this fundamental contradiction for years now, and a simple billing update was the spark that just ignited the whole thing.
So let's actually start right at the epicenter of that billing update. Because on June 1st, GitHub Copilot quietly made a fundamental change to their infrastructure. They switched from flat subscription rates to token-based billing.
Which sounds incredibly boring on the surface.
It does. And on paper, if you looked at their pricing page, the base plans look completely identical. Copilot Pro remained $10 a month. Pro Plus stayed at $39 a month.
Right, so you'd think nothing changed.
But developers who were relying on agentic coding and complex chat workflows, they immediately got hit with catastrophic bills.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about users whose monthly cost jumped from $29 to $750, or a $50 plan just jumping to $3,000.
Yeah.
The digest mentions this wild anecdote of a Pro Plus user burning through 8% of their entire monthly quota in just 2 hours of work.
Which is insane, but to understand why that actually happens, you have to look under the hood at what agentic coding does.
Okay, walk me through that.
Well, in the early days, you would just type a prompt, right? The AI gives you a block of code, and that was it. One prompt, one output.
Simple enough.
But an AI agent is given a broader goal and told to work autonomously. So you ask it to build a login page, it writes a block of code, it simulates running that code, it spots its own error.
Oh, so it's doing this all in the background.
Exactly. It queries a database for the right syntax. It rewrites the code, checks it again. It might run dozens or even hundreds of internal loops, essentially talking to itself and iterating.
Right.
And it does all that before it ever shows you, the human, a single line of text.
And under the old flat rate system, GitHub was just eating the cost of all those invisible internal loops, right?
Yeah, completely. The user never saw them, so the user never had to think about the massive amount of compute power it actually took to run them.
The developer was completely shielded from the reality of the silicon.
Precisely. But the moment you switch to token-based billing, every single one of those internal thoughts, every minor syntax correction the AI catches, it consumes tokens.
Right.
So the developer is suddenly footing the bill for the AI's highly extensive internal monologue.
Which brings me to this massive contradiction in the timeline. It's like that restaurant analogy.
Yeah.
Switching to charging per grain of rice.
Yeah.
Right when the customer is the most hungry.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So if developers are experiencing this massive sticker shock, if there's a huge public backlash brewing on June 1st over these $3,000 bills, why on earth did Anthropic choose exactly 8 days later, June 9th, to launch their new model?
Oh, the Fable 5 launch.
Yes. Fable 5 at $10 and $50 per million tokens. I'm looking at these numbers, and that is double the price of Opus 4.8.
It's their most expensive model ever.
Right. Launching a premium price product into a market that is currently screaming about the cost of computing feels like corporate suicide.
Well, it looks totally disconnected right up until you zoom out. You have to look at the structural panic inside the executive boardrooms of these AI labs.
What are they panicking about?
They are currently staring down the barrel of Wall Street expectations. OpenAI confidentially filed for an IPO this week.
Right. The digest mentioned that.
And Sam Altman has signaled internally that they plan to go public within the year. Anthropic is also gearing up for the public market.
Okay, so the pressure's on.
Huge pressure. Because when a lab goes public, the narrative shifts. You can't just show staggering user growth and hype anymore. You have to prove your business model actually functions.
You have to demonstrate actual profit margins to institutional investors.
Exactly. So they have to prove that people are actually willing to pay for the raw compute they're consuming.
But GitHub Copilot surpasses $2 billion in annual recurring revenue, and the second they try to make the unit economics work, the users revolt.
Yeah, and it exposes an incredibly uncomfortable truth for the industry. The developer community is hypersensitive to consumption-based pricing.
They just won't pay it.
Right. The revenue projections for the entire AI industry might be based on a willingness to pay that simply does not exist.
Wow.
So Anthropic pushing Fable 5 at a massive premium, it's an attempt to hold the line. They're desperately trying to signal to future investors that a premium market does exist for cutting-edge capabilities.
But the digest reveals that holding that line is completely failing, because there is this invisible elephant in the room that Western labs have been ignoring.
The China factor.
Exactly. The moment this GitHub backlash started, Google and OpenAI panicked, and they moved in the exact opposite direction of Anthropic.
Yeah, they did.
Within 48 hours, Google slashed the price of Google AI Plus from $7.99 to $4.99 and doubled the storage.
A massive cut.
And the Wall Street Journal is reporting OpenAI is weighing drastic structural cuts to their token prices too. And they aren't doing this out of the goodness of their hearts, right?
No, absolutely not.
They are doing it because of the OpenRouter numbers.
Yes. And the OpenRouter data is arguably the most critical leading indicator in the software world right now.
For context for you listening, OpenRouter basically acts as a central switchboard for developers.
Right. Instead of building an app locked into just OpenAI or just Google, developers use OpenRouter to seamlessly route their API requests to whatever model makes the most sense at any given millisecond.
And right now, apparently, the model that makes the most sense is Chinese. DeepSeek now controls 61% of global OpenRouter developer API traffic.
61%. Let that sink in.
It's staggering. American developers are actively abandoning the expensive Western APIs and routing their workflows to DeepSeek and Alibaba's Qwen.
I mean, when your Copilot bill threatens to hit $3,000 and an equivalent Chinese alternative costs $20,
that is an incredibly easy choice to make.
it really is. It shifts from a hypothetical future threat to a massive behavioral change happening this week. Google and OpenAI didn't initiate this price war.
No, they're reacting to it.
Desperately reacting to a scorched earth price war that Chinese labs initiated 6 months ago, which Silicon Valley was far too arrogant to acknowledge until the OpenRouter traffic actually started vanishing.
Okay, so let's follow the logic here, because this creates an existential trap.
Oh, totally.
Western AI labs are slashing their token prices to stop developers from fleeing to $20 foreign alternatives. But if you slash the price of your product, how on earth do you pay your infrastructure bills?
That's the trap.
You still have these massive supercomputers running around the clock. The physical constraints of silicon don't care about a price war.
No, they don't. The cost of the physical hardware is fixed, and it is astronomical. Which naturally brings us to the financial event happening tomorrow.
Right. Thursday, June 11th, after market close, SpaceX is set to price its IPO.
And the numbers are just wild.
They are aiming for a fixed $135 per share, projecting a record-shattering $75 billion raise.
It effectively doubles the previous global record held by Saudi Aramco.
Yeah, it would value SpaceX at a $1.78 trillion market cap, with Elon Musk retaining over 82% voting control.
It is a staggering financial maneuver, but the numbers inside their S-1 filing, those are the mandatory financial disclosures they have to make to go public. They paint a terrifying picture of what AI actually costs in the physical world.
What stood out to you in the S-1?
SpaceX's AI segment research and development costs skyrocketed over 300% to $5.06 billion.
And the craziest line item in that S-1 isn't even the research. It's the hardware decay. $1.67 billion in GPU depreciation alone.
Yeah, and when we say depreciation, we aren't talking about accounting tricks.
Right, it's not just a tax write-off.
Exactly. We are talking about the physical reality of thermal limits. Running these massive training clusters literally melts the hardware. The chips degrade.
So they just burn out.
They have to be constantly swapped out and replaced. You are quite literally burning through billions of dollars of rare silicon just to keep the models running.
Good grief.
And on top of that, they disclosed $25.45 billion in contractual commitments for cloud capacity. And 95% of that massive debt is concentrated right now over the next 24 months.
Okay, hold on. I want to stop right here.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at these numbers in the digest, and I feel like I'm looking at a massive house of cards.
I don't blame you.
I want to push back on this entire valuation for a second. We just established that Anthropic and Google are bleeding cash in a desperate price war, trying to keep developers from fleeing to DeepSeek, right?
Right.
But according to the digest, xAI's Colossus data center, which is the major AI pillar of this SpaceX IPO, it makes its money from those exact same companies.
Yep, they are the tenants.
Anthropic is paying Colossus $1.25 billion a month.
Yeah.
Google is paying them $920 million a month.
It's all connected.
So Musk is pitching this IPO to Wall Street based on guaranteed data center revenue. But the tenants paying that rent are currently slashing their own prices just to survive.
That is the irony, yes.
How can institutional investors possibly buy into a $75 billion raise when the foundational customers might not be able to pay their bills?
Well, that is the multi-trillion-dollar question dominating the IPO roadshow right now. The institutional investors buying in, they're subscribing to a bull case that assumes AI compute demand is a permanent, insatiable utility, like electricity. They believe that even if token prices drop, the sheer volume of global usage will make up the difference.
But volume doesn't matter if your margins are negative.
Exactly. And that is the structural risk. It is a highly interconnected, fragile ecosystem.
Yeah.
If OpenAI and Anthropic are forced to permanently gut their token prices to fight off a $20 Chinese API, their margins completely evaporate.
And if their margins evaporate?
Their ability to sustain billion-dollar-a-month compute losses at the Colossus data center gets incredibly shaky.
It's this closed loop of financial pressure.
Precisely.
The end-user developer refuses to pay $3,000. The AI lab slashes prices to keep the developer. But the data center still demands billions to keep the servers from melting.
The entire ecosystem is buckling under the sheer physical cost of computing power. You cannot solve this with accounting tricks or IPO capital.
So what's the way out?
You have to fundamentally change the underlying computer science. You have to figure out how to generate AI responses in a way that is drastically faster and drastically cheaper.
Which brings us perfectly to the final and maybe most fascinating piece of this digest. Google's bizarre new release today.
Oh, this was huge.
Yeah, Google AI just released an experimental open model called Diffusion Gemma. And the underlying mechanism is completely different from almost all the AI tools we interact with daily.
Right. The standard mechanism for something like GPT-4 or standard Gemma is autoregressive decoding.
Okay, let me see if I have this right. Autoregressive decoding is essentially an incredibly fast pipe writer. It predicts the next logical word, types it, then has to read everything it just wrote to guess the next logical word after that. It's totally linear.
It is entirely linear. And because it is constantly waiting on its own previous output to take the next step, it's computationally expensive. And it hits a hard speed limit.
Makes sense.
But text diffusion, which is what Diffusion Gemma uses, works more like a photograph developing in a darkroom chemical bath.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, instead of generating word by word, the model generates an entire block of text simultaneously.
Wait, all at once?
All at once. It starts with pure static, essentially random noise, and refines the whole block at the same time, in parallel, until coherent words emerge.
Wow.
And on dedicated hardware, this parallel processing delivers up to 4 times faster generation.
The specs on this are incredible. It's a 26 billion parameter model, but it's built as a mixture of experts.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, a mixture of experts model doesn't use all its brain power at once, right?
No, think of it like a massive corporation. Instead of making every employee work on every single task, you have specialized departments.
Okay.
When a prompt comes in, the model dynamically routes the task only to the specific parameters the experts needed to solve it. So even though it holds 26 billion parameters of knowledge, it only activates 3.8 billion parameters during inference. It saves massive amounts of power.
And the efficiency gets even wilder. Google quantized it, meaning they compressed the mathematical precision of the model so it takes up less physical space.
Right, to make it smaller.
And they got it to fit into 18 gigabytes of VRAM. VRAM being the video memory on a graphics card.
Which is a magical number.
It is. Because on a massive, enterprise-grade H100 GPU, it hits over 1,000 tokens per second. But because it fits into 18 gigabytes of VRAM, you can run it on a high-end consumer graphics card, like an RTX 5090, and still hit over 700 tokens per second.
Exactly.
Plus, they released it under an Open Apache 2.0 license, so developers can modify it and use it commercially for free.
It is a remarkable technical achievement, but it comes with a glaring catch that tells you everything about Google's strategy right now.
Right. The marketing around this is baffling.
It really is.
Google openly admits in their own release notes that on the exact same reasoning tasks, Diffusion Gemma scores significantly lower on published benchmarks than their standard Gemma 4 model.
Yeah, they just straight up tell you it's worse.
They're literally going to the public with the message, speed over quality. In the tech industry, that is almost completely unheard of.
It's wild.
It's like trying to sell a Formula One car by saying, it goes 200 miles an hour, but the steering wheel randomly locks up. Why would a trillion-dollar company release a demonstrably less accurate model?
Because Diffusion Gemma isn't a product designed to replace their flagship models. As Aaron Rose notes in the digest, this is a researcher's honest framing of an experimental escape hack.
An escape hatch from what?
From the compute crisis. Google is throwing this technology over the wall and practically begging the open source community to help them fix the quality issues.
But why do they need the open source community? I mean, they're Google. Why not just fix it internally?
Because the clock is ticking on those billion-dollar data center bills. If the global developer community can collaborate and solve the quality degradation, diffusion changes the entire financial calculus of the internet.
Ah, I see.
Think back to that developer burning $3,000 on agentic coding loops.
Yeah.
Most of those internal loops aren't profound reasoning tasks. They are simple, repetitive chores like code infilling or catching minor syntax errors.
And if you can get an AI to do those simple chores at 700 tokens a second, and it only takes 18 gigabytes of VRAM, you don't need a supercomputer.
Precisely. 18 gigabytes of VRAM fits easily on a standard developer's local workstation. Diffusion Gemma integrates natively with engines like VLLM, which are designed to run large models locally.
Okay, so if I'm a developer,
If you can run all those token-heavy, real-time internal loops on your own hardware under your desk without ever pinging a commercial API in the cloud, it relieves the exact financial pressure crushing the industry.
Google is essentially saying, please, developers, figure out how to make this work on your own machines so you stop racking up $3,000 bills that you refuse to pay.
Right, and we can stop building billion-dollar server farms to run your background code edits.
Wow.
They're open sourcing a research direction because the current autoregressive, cloud-dependent trajectory is mathematically unsustainable. The industry is desperately trying to push the compute cost back onto the user's local hardware.
The picture Aaron Rose has painted in this single digest, it's just mind-blowing. When you connect all the dots, we are watching an entire global industry hit a concrete wall in the span of 48 hours.
It's all happening right now.
It all starts with developers getting slapped with $3,000 token bills because the physical reality of AI is shockingly expensive. That localized sticker shock triggers a global migration, with American developers actively routing their traffic to Chinese models like DeepSeek to save cash.
Which subsequently terrifies Wall Street.
Right.
Because the Western tech giants being forced to slash their prices are the exact same companies locked into massive, multi-billion-dollar compute leases.
Leases that serve as the foundational revenue for tomorrow's historic $75 billion SpaceX IPO.
Exactly. The users refuse to pay the premium, the infrastructure hardware degrades and demands billions to maintain, and the math simply breaks.
So Google lobs an experimental, slightly worse but blindingly fast text diffusion model out into the wild, hoping developers can make it run locally to relieve the pressure on the server farms.
It is a complete ecosystem desperately trying to reinvent its own physics.
It's wild.
It's a necessary reality check. It forces everyone, investors, developers, and everyday users, to stop looking at AI as infinite digital magic.
And start looking at it as heavy industrial economics.
Bound by supply, demand, and the hard thermal limits of silicon chips.
Well, I want to leave you with a thought to mull over as you watch this all play out. We know right now that American developers are fleeing to Chinese APIs to escape the astronomical costs of Western data centers.
Right.
That is a massive geopolitical shift happening right under our noses. But if experiments like Google's Diffusion Gemma actually succeed, If the open source developer community figures out how to make lightning-fast, high-quality AI run entirely on their own local consumer-grade graphics cards, will developers eventually bypass both the expensive Western giants and the cheap foreign APIs?
It is the ultimate blind spot for these massive corporations.
Yeah.
Is the fatal threat to these trillion-dollar tech monopolies, not a global price war with overseas labs, but the fact that very soon, developers might not need anyone's server farms at all.
Going back to our apartment building at the very beginning, maybe you don't need to panic about the landlord putting most microscopic meter on your faucet. Because if the open source community gets its way pretty soon, you'll be able to just build your own infinite well right in your backyard.
Now that is a thought.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the invisible economics driving our technology. We'll see you in the next one.